The pressure fighter in boxing is one of the most exciting fighters in the sport. The man that can consistently walk his opposition down until usually beating their opponents into submission. But whilst the knockouts and the end product of a fighter like Gennady Golovkin can be incredibly eye-catching, it's the more subtle defensive work of pressure fighters that is essential for their aggression to be so effective. And oftentimes, because it gets overshadowed by the knockout punch, it goes under the radar. Now, this impeccable shifting of stances and devastating knockout is of course the most eye-catching moment of this sequence. But if we rewind the clock 30 seconds, it's this subtle bit of defensive work that allows Golovkin the opportunity to land a punch that does the damage, ultimately pushing Rolls back against the ropes. The entire sequence is set up after this tricky, subtle little shoulder roll and deflection off of Golovkin's arm. Now, of course, he had an impeccable chin when the shots had to be taken, but Golovkin was a master of control and keeping himself out of trouble defensively, especially when he faced big punchers like David Lemieux and Canelo Alvarez. Now, I'm going to cover an array of aggressive fighters that I think perfectly encapsulate the aggressive defense, whilst also including clips of my own professional fights to show that you can pick up these elite tricks and use them. Now, staying with Triple G, the most important thing when staying defensively sound up close is remaining in control and controlling your opposition. Now, it's an aggressive way in which Golovkin does this, but we notice he cuts off where Macklin's going to go instead of following him. This pins Macklin in the corner. He attempts to escape to the left, but Golovkin intercepts that escape, pushing Macklin back exactly where he wants him, in that same place, where he can then push for another attack. This keeps him in control, and that is very important when assessing defense. And Golovkin would use his defense in an aggressive way. Notice here how he just shifts out of range before pushing Macklin back again. When he does this, as the opponent, you know the power he has in his hands. And it makes it even worse when you can't hit him, because he's making you miss in such a relaxed way and then putting you exactly where he wants you. He's in complete control. That in its own is completely draining. But when he does pounce, he's anticipating your response and is ready to keep himself out of danger. Once again, we see him use the shoulder, which typically isn't the most orthodox way of defense, but is incredibly common with pressure fighters. Now, we can see here against the huge puncher in David Lemieux, Golovkin is maintaining the center of the ring with his jab, but every time Lemieux springs forward, he gets out of range, puts his weight on the back foot, and then maintains the pressure again. This here is preventing Lemieux from planting his feet, getting into range, and landing the bomb that he needs to land to win this fight. It's the small details here, but it does make a big difference, just judging the distance well. And we see here, as he backs up, he needs to be relaxed so his hands are lower and he hides behind the shoulder. Now, the lead shoulder is a great way to just ride shots off, as long as you can anticipate it and you have a lot of confidence in your ability to judge distance. What Gennady does especially well at distance, making sure the shots miss, is not only just keeps himself in control, but makes sure that he lands those jabs to maintain that control. Judging the distance with your feet well is going to eventually lure your opponent into overcommitting with their own shots and giving you the opportunity to land yours cleanly. But not only that, as I say, it's going to give you the escapes that you need. Make your opponent miss with your feet, spring in with your own shots, and then escape. And we can see it here against Canelo, using the lead hand at distance, judging the distance well, and as Canelo lunges in, land a jab and escape. And that's at distance, but Golovkin wants you up close, where he's going to work you. And we see the combination between head movement, blocks, and shoulder rolls whilst on the front foot. Golovkin's shoulder rolls were incredibly subtle, and he used both rear and lead shoulder to make opponents miss. Now, usage of the lead shoulder roll would allow him to stay in the pocket, in range, and anticipate the shots. Typically, it's all anticipation, and looking at your opponent's shoulders means you'll see every twitch that's coming, and you'll know which way to move in order to put your shoulder behind your chin, and it will ride the shot off and keep you in range. But it wasn't just the lead shoulder, it was more his rear shoulder defense that made him stand out. Similar to a Salvador Sanchez in a way. When he overcommitted with his shots, or when a left hook came, he was able to ride this off with his right shoulder. Now, this is a really interesting trick to pick up. It's difficult, but it does get you out of trouble. And you just have to go with the natural flow of your body. As I say, it will keep you in range and make the shot miss. And sometimes if you overcommit, you can ride the shot off your back by twisting your body. Now, we've covered the fact that Golovkin moved his head, rode shots off his shoulders and twisted shots off his back much better than people gave him credit for. But it's also basic stuff too. If he was going to throw with you and you were going to trade, he'd keep his other hand up to block. Now this stuff here is textbook defense, but it often goes under the radar. Probably the most important part of Golovkin's defense was reading patterns, rectifying mistakes, and how to stay in the part of the ring where he's in control. Here we see Lemieux have success by quadrupling his jab. Golovkin's made the mistake of backing up in a straight line. Lemieux has picked this up and followed up with his attack, landing a powerful jab. Golovkin instantly notices this and takes his head off the centre line. He can't make this mistake again. Lemieux has finally found a way to land after 4 rounds. Golovkin's too smart to fall into that trap again, and after Lemieux tries to repeat the pattern, he takes his head off the centre line and puts Lemieux in a more controllable position. It's all ring IQ, knowing where to be in the ring and immediately learning from your mistakes. Every single time Lemieux backs Golovkin up with follow-up attacks, Golovkin gets off the ropes, turns Lemieux and claims the centre of the ring where he can maintain control. And that takes me on to Julio Cesar Chavez, who here is facing the very hard punching Edwin Rosario. He finds himself in a rare occasion backed up against the ropes or on the back foot, but he stays relaxed. He knows that he's going to have to ride the wave, keeps his hands up and just rides with the shots, which is another key component of the aggressive fighter. Staying relaxed when you're under pressure. It's going to happen. Bide your time, ride the shots, and when the opportunity comes, turn your opponent and then repay the favour.
Right off the ropes with a good shot.
Watch, now he can start to double up to the body. Watch. You see here, this is when he gets his man in trouble. This is when Rosario needs to get out of there.
And Chavez pressing Rosario.
You see what happens, Barry? He turns the table around because he lets his man throw his punches, and then he comes on, he retaliates.
Allowing Morley to counter and pot shot him a little bit at times.
Well, Isaacs has come out for the 8th and final round with one mission. He knows he's well behind. He's going to put it all on Dan Morley now, and that's what he's doing. And Morley, well, if he stays out of trouble, he should surely have his arm raised at the end, we feel.
Well, he just tucked up Morley, bobbed and weaved. Isaacs, after the referee said break there. Isaacs didn't complain, though.
There was a big body shot sank in then from Morley.
Now we know Chavez is defensively sound, but it's where he puts his own head when he's on the front foot that keeps him both safe and in a more controllable position up close. He's aware of the shots that are coming back, so he can make them miss, but he doesn't want to stay at that mid-range, so he closes the distance. From the clip we just played, we can see up close, Chavez is able to smother Rosario's work. He can't get the shots off at that range. And we can see here, Chavez keeps his head low and keeps his body low. The low centre of gravity with the high guard means that he's in a better position. He is stronger, he can see everything coming, and when he wants, he can use that low centre of gravity to push Rosario back. And like Golovkin cutting off the ring, Chavez was his big inspiration in the Mexican style. Watch how Chavez keeps Rosario exactly where he wants him on the ropes. Rosario wants to escape, he's under suffocating pressure. But Chavez, being in that better position, is able to use his physicality. He hooks his arm around Rosario, he's not going to let him escape. And as you can see here, he punches with the free hand. Controlling your position is so important to not getting hit. And we can see Chavez here smothering Rosario, making him push him off. He's able to create his own space when he wants to get his small shots off. But Rosario is exhausted. He's getting hit with everything and Chavez is making the shots miss in return. In both instances on these next 2 clips, watch how Chavez moves his head but uses his elbows to block. He's knocked out of position but makes sure to intercept Rosario's escape. Again, using the elbows to block. That position up close and him being able to create the space to get his own work off and then instantly smother means that he can throw with space, but Rosario, who's on the back foot and isn't where he wants to be, can't throw back. We see the smothering tactic here again. After he throws his right hand, he puts his head in a safe position and smothers Rosario. Rosario can't get those shots off. The important thing after Chavez throws, and he finds himself briefly at that mid-range, is that he moves his head just like that. Now this takes me on to Roberto Duran. Notice how when he changes the angles, his balance is immaculate. He's in a great position, and similarly to Chavez, he uses setup shots, he doesn't load up with every shot. It's overwhelming offense, and Duran, like Chavez, as he gets slightly out of position, changes the angle, hooks round Leonard's chest and hits him in the chest. He's mixing the attack up from body, head and chest. But then he puts his head in that safe position and it smothers Leonard's work when he's able to throw his own shots back. When Duran is at range, which is where Leonard is better, he paused with the jab and throws the right hand. It falls short, but the smothering tactic once again smothers Leonard. Duran has him where he wants him here. Now it's here where we really see Duran's natural defensive instincts. He's able to make Leonard miss whilst he's landing those sneaky shots. He paused the jab and once again throws the right hand and keeps himself safe with the smother. As we see both up close, notice how Leonard lets all of these shots fly. When you look at this in slow motion, you notice that he doesn't actually land any of them. And not only this, Duran, whilst leaning against the ropes in a seemingly vulnerable position, is in control, stays relaxed like Chavez does under pressure, and goads Leonard into overreaching with his shot and uses his momentum against him to turn him round and puts himself where he wants to be. That's the high level ring IQ, knowing where to be. And if we notice, Duran is the one that lands the shots up close. Once again, Leonard lets a furious flurry go, and whilst they look good on the eye, notice how Duran makes most of them miss or ineffective, and then once again pushes Leonard back, lands his own work at range, and then smothers to keep himself safe.
Why would they want Leonard to take him inside?
Leonard in trouble again. His knee just buckled at that right hand, but he's coming. There goes Duran with a nice right hand. It just missed. Here comes Leonard with hand speed. Duran's got him in a corner. Duran, he's trying to get out. Oh, a great shot from Duran. Another great shot from Leonard. Catches Duran. And up. Oh, he did. Look at Leonard fight back. And Duran. And unbelievable. Listen to this crowd. Look at right. He said, we'll see who goes 15. That's what this is going to be. Who goes 15? Leonard coming back with a flurry, and Duran answered and hit him point left.
And the smothering tactic was probably used best in history by Henry Armstrong, someone that conquered the equivalent of 7 divisions today within a span of 3 years. And whilst many people like to say Armstrong is a little outdated, I disagree. Fighters that smother you will always be difficult to deal with because you can't hit them. Similarly to Chavez, Armstrong would make himself a small target, plant himself on your chest, use shoves to create space, and then smother you, putting all his weight against you constantly for 15 rounds. It's ridiculously difficult to land punches on a fighter like this. The most important thing is where Armstrong puts his head, right against your chest. And looking back, close to 90 years later, notice how those shoulder rolls, twists of the body, are still as effective back then as they are today. It's a style that would always give you problems. Once he was on your chest, he would smother you, use shoves to create space, and work endlessly. But it's what he did to get in range and then escape that is the great defensive work. It's those little slips, those rides off the shoulder, the constant movement and doing it on the front foot that makes him such a difficult fighter to deal with. It's all well and good making an opponent miss whilst you're backing up, but if you can do it whilst you're moving forward, then it just keeps your opponent under an enormous amount of pressure. I don't think there's ever been a fighter quite as relentless as Henry Armstrong in the way in which he moves forward, but it's the constant movement from that low stance that makes him such a difficult opponent to deal with. Look at the fluidity. It's perpetual motion, making you miss before he gets in and then making you miss after he's done his work, either by moving his head, riding the shots off, or, as I say, suffocating you with pressure, smothering you by planting his head on your chest and putting himself in that safe space. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better aggressive defensive fighter in recent years than Roman Gonzalez. In his prime, Gonzalez was constantly throwing with such a relaxed rhythm, but he would make full-blooded shots miss within the middle of a combo time after time. Now, it's a common theme that these fighters have impeccable balance, but being relaxed is key. You'll notice that he's always throwing with this relaxed flow. He's never loading up. He's constantly shifting his body weight across his feet, which means he's able to spring in and out defensively and throw in shots. He relies on his shoulders to keep him within range. He's able to turn opponents, maneuver them where he wants them to be. And most importantly, he keeps himself in the right position. These are the tricks that keep boxing's aggressive fighters from getting hit. They don't often get spoken about enough. And most of these great fighters that fight in the pocket and score knockouts can't do it if they're taking loads of shots. They're either making the shots miss by using these tricks or riding the sting out of those punches by doing them.